So I have already changed the code just a little bit from what is on master right now. So let's look into this. And just in case anyone wants to follow along, you can do that. I'm going to go live share. Should get a copy. Got it. So you can follow along if you want. If you have Visual Studio VS Code, which is a great IDE, honestly. All I've done here is I've commented out the other things on this page, and then I changed the update rate to 200 milliseconds instead of 1,000. So we get this really fast update. Because when we're doing the learning stuff, I don't need to do this yet actually. When we get to the learning stuff, it should look more interesting if it's updating faster. So I wanted to update it faster, but we don't have to do that yet. I want to get to the easy things first. Hopefully easy things. So let's look and see what we're going to do here. Show the data point on the screen somewhere. That should be easy enough. So let's do this first. Am I missing anything? Everybody can hear me okay? Oh, let me get rid of this. Everybody hears me okay? Quit my QuickTime player. Yup, okay, cool. And thanks Torlac for coming back. I think I've seen you a few times on the channel. I appreciate anybody who's coming back again. Joey, Fizzbrain, I've recognized several of you guys in chat. Freeman, 42's out there. John Draloon, thanks everybody. This should be a fun episode because I don't think it's going to be too hard to enable the learning. Testing it might be a little bit hard, but that's down here. That's down here. We'll get to this sort of at the end. I want to do some of the more UI stuff first. So let's do that. So first, we're just going to show the data point on the screen. This should be pretty easy. Let's get the debugger up and running, and I think I'm going to move it down on the bottom. And maybe make this a little smaller. Yeah, because that's all we need to see right now. React doesn't like something. Okay. And so I want to just be able to display the data point on the screen somewhere. I imagine I can hopefully easily do that because in the code, so let's look at the code on the spatial pooling page. I'm already getting in component did update. Here's where I know the data's changed right here. Right here, there's been an automatic data feed update. So if I add that to my state, just the raw data. So I'll just call this data. Maybe I'll call it data point or current data. Let's call it current data. I should be able to, and I've got these fix me's for later. I should be able to add this to the state right here, current data, and then it should be this .props.data, and that should have a value and a time component. And I think we'll be able to get that and really easily display it like this. Like I might just put it right under here. We'll just put it in an H4, I don't know, and then we'll say this.state.current data, and this isn't going to be the way it ends up, but objects are not valid as a React child. Oh, I have to actually set like a value and a time. So let's do that. So let's call it current data value, current data time. Oops, it's fine with me. I'm flying blind here because I don't have David Truman DDuck03. He's usually in chat helping me with all the React stuff, but that's okay. I can handle this. All right, so this is going to be current data value, and this will just be .value, and make this one time. Now down here, I'm going to show them both. we'll have current data time. And let's just take this whole thing, copy it. Value. So at this time, I don't know if this is going to display well in line as a string. Objects are not valued. Well, that shouldn't be an object. I didn't think it was an object, but let's go see what it is. Let's set a breakpoint. Well, let's just debug right here, and we'll see exactly what's going on here. Okay, so goodbye console. So this .props.data is a time. Oh, it's probably just wants a string instead of a date. That's no big deal. Do I have moment? I think I usually use moment. I do have moment. Okay, so I can just wrap it in a moment and then send it off to string. And I just got distracted. Oh yeah, I just commented those out. Okay. So here where we set the time, we're just gonna set it as a string. So I think I can just say moment this. And now I have to remember how to do it. How do I, so I gotta look this up. Moment JS date to string. This is probably super easy. I always forget. It's just .format. Okay, so .format. Let's see if that works. Let me take the debugger out, because I bet it'll work. Nope. Moment is, I have to import it, of course. Import moment from moment. I think that's all I need. Hopefully, there we go. All right, so there's our data point. We can format it later. I just want to make sure everyone knows. Actually, let's format it a little better than that. What is a good way to format it? Parse, get, manipulate, display. This is what we want, display. Yeah, let's use this format, date string, and we can just use that for now. We'll format this, and I don't want to use double quotes. I don't like double quotes in JavaScript. I just don't. I just don't like them. This is fine. This is fine. Okay. Hello, hey David, you are here. Yeah. Here's the live share link. I was just saying how I'm flying blind here without you in React world. Here you go. I don't think I have to do anything tricky with React today, hopefully. All I'm doing right now is just making sure that the data point is, yeah, so that's a more readable. I don't know why it's 01, that's kind of weird. But I don't really care, so. And we're just getting a value that's, I think, between negative, I don't even know what the value is, what I decided it was going to be. It doesn't really matter. Okay, anyway, let's make that a little less intrusive. It doesn't need to be in a header. It does not need to be in a header. So down here in the layout, let's take it out of this and we'll just put it in a div. Oh. Just a cop. Pulling somebody over. Do not want. Alright, so this should just be a little date string. There it is. So that's the date. That's the data that we're showing here. What is my console? Is it a favicon? Oh, it's just a React issue. I'm gonna put my headphones on. Give me a moment here. So I'm not distracted by sounds. Except for the ones I want to be distracted by. Okay. And I'll also open up Discord, the chat in Discord. I'm in HTM chat live stream channel. So we are hooked up there. If anybody wants to join there, otherwise, here we are. Okay, so one thing's done. That's great. check it out. Look, it was in progress for about 5 minutes and now it's done. Next thing, we're gonna add some labels. So let's do this. The connection threshold, distribution center, and the spread. These are these things right here. So let's put them just in a little bit of a better format. I just tossed them in. I mean, I didn't really think at all about them. So let's put them in an actual structure. Let's put them in a list. For now, we'll put them in a list. We'll say connection threshold, and that's where we'll put this. This doesn't have to be beautiful. We'll do beautiful later. Now it's just functional. Connection distribution. Hello, Mark Brown. The king is in, people. Still in Oman? You missed a good research meeting, I thought it was a good one, but it'll be on the archive soon enough. What was this one? Distribution center. Let's put center of distribution. All right, so that should look better. All right. Okay, so as we change this, these aren't going to change anything yet. Back in the US, welcome back. Glad you had safe travels. By the way, Mark, I changed the date for our discussion about fully connected networks because this Friday I'm going to be at the Applied AI Summit, and I completely forgot about that. So it's going to be next Friday. I know I keep pushing it up, but I actually will not be able to even do it because I'll be attending conference talks about applied AI, which I'm honestly not looking forward to because I'm not interested in applied deep learning. I'm interested in intelligence. Let's change this. Let's change this. I don't quite like the way this looks, so let's move these to be first, or else, yeah, like I said, it's not beautiful, but it's functional. I know. I would put this in, use CSS to do this, but eventually, but for now, this is fine. Right? It's gonna look okay, right? They're all gonna be different anyway. That's not even worth doing. Never mind. We'll get to proper alignment at some point in the future. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I'm gonna put the permanences back right now because I took these out because I changed the update rate to be really fast and it slowed the page down. But with just a 1 Hertz update rate, it shouldn't slow the page down too much. What is this big gap here? Oh yeah. I need to change the size of the potential pools. So when I change this will change that. Okay, and it will also should change. So that's one of the things I want to do. I want to make sure when I change the connection threshold here, it should also update. Oh, see, it is. It's updating. I think it's updating the spatial pooler. Yeah. So if I make this 0.4, yeah. So it's definitely. So we're definitely getting. I said 0.4. Yeah. So we're definitely getting a. I don't think we should be reinitializing the spatial pooler when this happens, but we are. So those are the things that I want to go through. When we change this, that definitely reinitializes the spatial pooler because it creates all new permanences. When we change the threshold, we shouldn't reinitialize the spatial pooler. That is something that we can update on the fly, the threshold. So that may be something that we have to add to the spatial pooler API in simplehtm, and if so, I'm just going to write it down to do in a moment. Let's see how we're doing it in the code. Okay, so we're looking at right, connection threshold, and that was, I think, one of our other tasks. Confirm changes to SP initialization values, change the mini-column competition. Okay, I'm going to put this in. We're going to be working on both of these essentially. And I've got these, I've done the labels, so we've labeled them. All right, remember there are Deep learning has lessons to teach. Yeah. Pulls, the big trick DL pulls from biology is connected maps, even with point neurons, muy powerful. It has some good lessons for HTM when it finally gets back to the H of HTM. Yeah, but aren't we already, are they doing anything that we're not doing? I'm not, anything necessary that we're not doing, because we have maps too. I mean, we have connected maps. Okay, so connection threshold changes. So when the connection threshold changes here, I need to go into the permanences first of all and make sure that, actually I'm gonna, this connection threshold change is something I need to look at in this page because this is where we're doing it. So, right, clean up SP initialization. So I think this is a bit we might be doing. You do speech recognition? Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. But I mean, well, there are, Richard Crowder is working on doing speech recognition stuff with temporal audio. You're talking about, there's the massive spatial pattern recognition that deep learning gives us, right? I won't throw it out, Mark. I'm going there to pay attention. It certainly does do. I'm not discounting it. Deep learning does a lot of amazing things. It's just, it's not what I'm interested in. So I'm going there with an open mind to try and see what the current state of the art is and how deep learning is being applied today. So I will report back on this Twitch channel about what I find here for sure. Okay, so this is if there's new data. If there's not an SP, we create a new SP. Look for bridges to HTM from deep learning. Absolutely, definitely. I will. So this is new data point. What we want is down here, if there's a new connection threshold. Okay, so we're reinitializing no matter what, but what I really want to do is say, we don't want to reinitialize if there's a new connection threshold. Right, because that's not something we need to recreate permanences for. So I'm going to create another else if, and here we'll put that. Let's get rid of this. Got my my line wrap on here. So now I need a way to update that connection threshold in the SP. I'm not sure I have a good way to do that. So let's look in the simple HTM real quick and see how we're storing that connection threshold. And I could just, just sneak a peek in and go change it, and then write a note to when I get to simple HTM to update the API, so that we can do that the right way. So we should have something called connection threshold. So what I'll do is simply just go change it. I'll just go change it. I'll sneak right into ops, because I should be able to go sp.ops.connection threshold and change it. That's the sneaky way to do it. That's not what I want to do. So I'm gonna write. So let's make a note, because I have a project for simple HTM. Let's go there. I've got a planning thing for it, spatial pooling. And I'm going to add a to-do item to add API to change connection threshold. All right, so we'll add that. That's going to be something we're going to do today, but I'm not going to do it yet. But what I'm going to do right now is the sneaky way of doing it, which is, oops, is this the right? Yeah. The sneaky way of doing it is going to be just to jump in there and update the connection threshold. So I should be able to say sp dot, whoops. Holy cow, it auto-commented connection threshold equals this dot state dot connection threshold. So hopefully this will not reinitialize the SP, but change the way it's calculating its connections without reinitializing it. So let's see if that worked. I should be able to see this. So if I change the connection threshold, let's change it to .1. That means they're all going to be all connected. Maybe that didn't work. None connected. Okay, what am I thinking? Yeah. That's right. So lots of connections. That's right. Versus very few connections. And I don't think, so if I select this mini column, so we're in the same mini column here. If I put it to 5, not 05, 5. So the potential pool should not change, okay? So keep an eye on the potential pool. It doesn't change. That's good. So I changed it from like 5 to 0.15. The potential pool is the same. That means it was not reinitialized. The permanences are the same. It's only the calculation of whether the permanence value is connected or not, represents a connection or not, that's different. So I think that's right. I think that's what we want. So I think that's good. And this one is updating in the same way. The permanences are still staying the same. Because when you initialize the spatial pool, you get a whole new set of permanences. All right, so that's, I think, done. Back to here. So confirm changes SB initialization values, change the mini column competition. Is that what I was doing? Yes. And that when I change the connection threshold, it does not. The other ones definitely do. So if I, oops, let me go back here, and if I change the center of the distribution, I get new permanences, or do I not? Yeah, I do. Because that reestablishes all of the weights. So that's right. If I change the connection distribution, this is sort of the spread. It also reestablishes potential pools and all of the permanences. I could, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're going to recreate all the weights, you might as well recreate all the potential pools too. So I think it's fine to recreate them all. So this looks fine to me. I think I'm happy with that. Let's get rid of you. No. All right, so that's done. We're flying through these. Hoist selected mini column up onto the page state. Okay, so what I want to do here is you'll notice, let me make this a little smaller. You'll notice that when I select the mini column here, it does not get reflected in the bottom one. I want the same selected mini column to be displayed on all of these, every diagram. So we want this, whatever is keeping track, the state of that, to be up at the page level. Right now it's handled in the diagram level. It's like diagram state. You wished you could clear your backlog that fast. Just create really easy issues. It makes you look really efficient. Hard things are hard, easy things are easy. Okay, so to do this, to hoist this up, let's look and see how we're doing this. Because right now, I do not have a selected mini column state here. What I want, basically, is selected mini column. Undefined. And that doesn't exist yet. So in the permanences, let's start with permanences here. There is a selected mini column, and it's 0. Okay, and then we change that based on a mouse handler. So the mouse handler is a D3. I think, is it D3? I'm not sure. I think maybe it's not. No, it's not. It's not. So that's good. So what we could do is essentially, from this point, from this mouse move, and I think I've done this on one of the other diagrams we're working on, is we want to emit an updated state. Okay, so I've got examples of doing this. David, don't help me out yet. I can do this, I think. Because I have an example of doing this in I think in encoding numbers, right? So when I create the diagrams, I can pass it, there it is, like on update. So I'm gonna do that. And that will, if I call on update with the right value, we'll just see how we're doing this. So this is simple scalar encoder. So let's go look at simple and scalar encoder. And on update is a function we're going to call with the value. Yeah, so we're calling on update with the value. And how does it know? The only thing I'm confused about is how does it know that's the right value? Don't answer that. This is just getting a value, so I don't necessarily know what state is being set. But I could certainly say explicitly what it is. So we'll go along with this and we'll figure it out. So for the permanences, we're going to do this here. The potential pool, I don't think it has a selected mini column, does it? Potential pool, yeah, it does. So we need to do this for all three of these. So let's start with this one. We have our on update value. And I'm not, oh, I put that on the wrong one. But they should both be the same. And I might need to add selected mini column as a key to this. I'm not certain yet. But in potential pools, let's go there first. That's the first one we made. Now we want to call right here, instead of calling this update, I think we just need to call this dot props dot on update with the selected mini column. And this is now, we're not going to have this state here anymore. Wait. Before I do this, I know that, here we go. That's where the value came from. Okay. I'm starting to remember this now. Since we named this value, that's how it knows to set that value. So I need to make sure that I'm giving it a property, and then that's what I'm using here. Okay, so I need to go back to spatial pooling, and we're going to give it a property called selected mini column. That's going to be this dot state dot selected mini column, and this I'm going to call selected mini column, and that's what we're going to set. Okay, so now in potential pool, back to here. I'm a React pro. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the encouragement. Okay, so this is going to be, we're just going to have this local and on update selected mini column. I could, of course, do this inline, but I think it's better to be explicit about what it is we're updating. So I know that when I call update, I'm updating selected mini column. Now, anytime I'm using selected mini column now, I want to remove this. Because it's going to be coming from the properties. So where else are we getting this? So this selected mini column is this dot props dot selected mini column. That may be the only place that we need. This is going to be this dot props. Whoops. This dot props dot selected mini column, and this dot props dot selected mini column. Okay. All right. Let's see what broke. See what we broke. Cell.adder is not a function. Oh, that's an interesting, wasn't what I expected. Just refresh and make sure that that's, okay, so let's see. Why would that be the case? So I'm calling treat cells with a cell, and it's not really a cell because the data, okay, let's debug right here and see why we don't have this dot props dot selected mini column in our
Are you defaulting it with a value? Or?
Undefined. That's probably it, eh? So if I just make it, instead of defaulting to undefined, default to 0, which is what I did originally.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Hurrah. Okay, so, all right, so this is not going to update because the other diagrams are still using diagram state, but now I could basically just do the same thing to permanences where we did here. So we'll give it, first of all, just like this, selected mini column and on update, the exact same lines. And I might as well do it here while I'm at it. Selected mini column and on update. I don't think I have an on update on either one of those. So this is the only thing that these diagrams are updating in the page state is selected mini column. Otherwise, they're all just doing local visualizations. Okay, so this is going to break. I don't think this is going to work yet, so let me take it off first, and we'll work on permanences real quick. This should be easy. It's basically doing the same thing. We're going to do const selected mini column, and then everywhere else where we're using selected mini column first, we're going to get rid of this. Anywhere else we're using it, we're going to say this dot props.
Is it on update or update?
I have been calling it on update. On all the others, I was calling it on update, which is, I think, did I not put that down here? Yeah, you're right. Thank you. On update. On update. That was the previous function. That was a local function update, which is going to be called by React now.
That's also on props, so it'll be like this props.
You mean in the page?
Yeah, when you called it on the handle, mouse move, whatever, it would be this dot props dot.
Oh, right. Thank you. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. This dot props. Right. Okay. Thanks, David. Okay, that's good. This one needs to be updated to props dot. Any other uses? Yeah, the same thing here. Props dot. And then one more. Props dot. And another. You know what? I should probably, well, I'll clean up later. Props dot. Boy, they're all over the place. This one uses selected mini column a lot. Okay, let's see how this works. Now, if I don't get any errors, so now I should see, yes, it worked. I can already tell. So as we hover over this one, our selected states now sort of cascades throughout. This one's not working though because I haven't hooked it up. So let's do that one next. Okay, same deal. And in mini column competition, we're gonna go find selected mini column. Get rid of this. Anytime we're using that, let's actually do it the easy way this time and say anytime we're saying this dot selected mini column, we'll replace it with this dot props dot selected mini column 5 times. And then in the update or in the mouse move, of course this is wrong, but we can fix this. Const selected mini column props dot on update selected mini column. I think that's it. Hurrah! Awesome. Okay, so that's exactly what I wanted. So now, no matter what diagram we're dealing with, we can look at all of them, and they're all displaying the same mini column data. This is a little odd because I've switched out. Like I put the mini column on the left here instead of the right. I should probably move that so that they're all the same. Let's do that. That wasn't on my list of things to do, but that's okay. This should be easy because it's in the mini column competition and it's just a transpose transpose. Where are we transposing? Oh, isn't it? Transform? Translate. Whatever. Okay, so we're not going to do this on the competition anymore. We're going to do it on the input. Okay, which is input. Okay, so we're going to do that here on this G group. So that should just swap them out. There. Oop. Okay, so I need to do. Okay, I know what to do. Hold on. I need to grab input space, not input. So I actually put this in the wrong function because I think there's an input space. Yeah. So this was the wrong one. I wanted to put it here, right? Because that's the group that contains all of them. I want to move everything in that group. There we go. All right, so now we've got these sort of better synced and using the same dimensions. And cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's commit this. Let's commit what we have so far. Quick review. I'll use VS Code to do this. Quick review of the so I'm gonna look at the page level first, I think. In spatial pooling, we have hoisted some state for the mini column, and we're now keeping track of the time and date value separately. What was that? Sorry, I just got a notification. My Stratocaster has arrived. I want to run home. I want to end the stream right now and run home, but I'm not. That's how dedicated I am. I'm waiting for a text from my wife because she knows how excited I am. Okay. Right, we're just setting the state. We're adding the data point into the state and formatting it so that we can see it. And then we are only reinitializing. Okay, so let me put a note here. Fix me. Simplehtm SP needs to manage this state better. Or let's say needs to provide API to change this. That's easy. We'll do that when we go to simplehtm. And we'll update to a new version because I don't want to keep jumping back and forth because I have to release it every time. So we're going to wait till we have to get over there and do learning, and we'll do it with the learning. That's just where we're putting the date and time and data point. And this is the updates for the selected mini column. This is also the same thing. This is the names of the parameters, and this is the mini column update. That looks all good to me. Potential pools removed. This is all about hoisting state. Okay, so now I'm going to look in here and see if there's any place I can refactor. Not in that function. This function, no. This function, no. No. Okay, but then and I think it was in one of these there was some places I could pull it out. This one already has it pulled into a value. This one I can pull into a value. So for example, I can take. I'll edit this one. Whoa, that was weird. Const selected mini column. So then I'll just use this, and then down here I can get rid of this. Just make it a little bit simpler, at least, so I've got a local copy, not a copy, a local reference. Same thing here I can do. Generally, I try to if I'm referring to like this dot x y z whatever more than once within a function, I'll pull it out into a variable. If I don't, it's just because I'm being lazy, because it's, I think, the right thing to do. And I am lazy, so it probably happens more than I like to admit. This one does not need to be pulled up. That one's good. Okay, mini column competition. It's the last one. That's our translation that we moved. This is only one reference. This is 2 references, so we'll do this. Selected mini column. And this guy right here we can get rid of. Selected mini column. This one's fine, that one's fine. Okay. Okay, so real quick, I just want to make sure that it still looks good. What did I break? Mini column competition 132. I think I just misspelled something, right? Selected, oh yeah, I didn't. Equals this dot props dot selected mini column. Okay, no errors. No errors. That's working. That's working. This is working. Yep. 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 Okay. All right. Let's commit this. Looking good. So I fixed a bunch of stuff here. What exactly did I do? So I'll list it all. Showing data point on the screen. I'm just going to put several small UI changes. Hoisted selected any column to page state. Confirm changes to, only re-init SP when necessary. Labels. Added labels for SP params. I thought that was a train. Show the data point on the screen. Show data point on the screen. Okay. Works for me. Now we can, I'm just going to push to master with this stuff. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, is this my music or is this an actual train? Could not tell. Okay. Your ID uses to do as a navigation target. Mine probably does too, I just don't know how to do it. Okay, so we got all the easy stuff done. Now it's time to do the harder thing, which is the learning part. So that was pretty good. So this is going to be okay. So we're going to go to simplehtm now. We're gonna add learning there. And like I said, the learning part I think is going to be simple. It's the tests that are going to be hard. It's always the tests that are hard. So now we're going to go to. Oh yeah, sorry, that was my GitHub. So now we're going to go to simplehtm, and I think I have to reshare my, like I have to live share this one too. I don't know if I can do 2 at a time, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try and live share simplehtm. Let's try. Okay. Yeah, some IDEs just automatically index like fix me and to do for you. This one probably does too. It's just I don't care enough right now to turn it on. That's a good point. I'll get to that stage. I'm still sort of tuning Visual Studio Code. Okay. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm gonna eat my sandwich. I'll let you guys stare at me while I eat my sandwich for a moment. Because I'm hungry. And it's not fun to listen to me try and talk and eat at the same time. It's a really beautiful day here in Watsonville, California. Excuse me. Really? Whenever I think Jordan, I think like blazing hot. But I guess do they have seasons there? Jordan's really close to Israel, right? Yes, they have seasons. So I guess that's not like Kuwait, or it's quite a ways away from Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. In another life, I used to know a lot about that region of the world. That was a long time ago. Mark, I'm sure you know more than I ever did. I only knew about like what countries had terrorist groups operating within them, because that was my job. Knowing terrorist organizations. I've forgotten them all now. Intentionally. You've walked in the footsteps of Jesus, like a pilgrimage. Certainly is an area rich in religious history. I wish I traveled more. I did for a little while. Not a lot. Once the kids get out of high school, I'll probably travel more. My wife just texted me and confirmed that my guitar has arrived. That's an interesting analogy. I get it. It can be overwhelming. The Fender, it's an electric Fender Strat Performer, brand new. It is at my house. I haven't opened it yet. But when I get home, I'm gonna stream it. You got a P bass? Cool. You should send me a picture. I love pictures of guitars. I would like to have a bass someday. What's a jazz neck? Is it fretless? Do you know Winamp? I used Winamp exclusively for like 5 years in the late 90s, early 2000s. Alembic Series 1. I'm gonna look that up. I know what a P-bass looks like. Ooh, that's pretty. Oh my god. That's what I'm looking at here. That's a pretty bass. Excuse me. That is really nice. There's a whole program called Rocksmith. I think it's for guitar and bass, or bass. And PlayStation or Xbox or PC. This one right here looks like yours. It's really pretty. I love unique guitar shapes, and I like fat-bodied electric guitars too. So that's nice. It's very nice. All right, enough guitar talk. Let's do this thing that we're planning on doing here. Okay. All right, so we're actually gonna go to simplehtm, and the last tests that we were writing were about permanences. Let's see. I wonder if I have a good outline for each. No, that's not a good outline. So all my SP tests are in the same file, and so let's maybe split this up a little. Maybe take the mini column competition one out. This is about overlaps. This is about permanences. So let's create a few files here. Let's call this SP potential pool tests.js. Actually, that's the one that we'll keep. So let's say permanence tests.js, and create another one. Oops. Called, oh, did I put that in the wrong place? This should be here. Yeah, okay, so another file we'll call sp, and let's say mini column petition tests. Okay, and we'll rename this one to SP potential pool tests. And then just scrape out what we need here. So upon SP initialization, when creating, let's just do this. Let's copy and paste. I'm gonna take everything out of here except for potential pools. Connected potential pools are the same. That's good. When establishing initial permanences. So from here on out, we're gonna take all this out. Permanences. I think we can take the whole thing. All of this out. We do need to end that. That's all we need. Oh, we gotta look at Mark's space real quick. Oh, nice. Can I show the whole picture? So the jazz bass is a narrower neck. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. Cool. So I like the shape. The P-bass shape is nice too. Okay. Back to the work. So that's the potential pool tests. We don't need D3 anymore for this one. Remember we were using that I think for a range. Let's go here. We'll paste everything and then take out all of the overlap, so everything but permanences. So we're gonna take this out. Okay, permanent stuff will stay. This goes. So starting here, I'm gonna take this out. Okay, so this has only got permanence tests in it now. And then this mini column competition tests, I don't have anything. Oh, that's weird. Take everything out. I don't know that I'm gonna do any, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do here yet. This one needs D3, that one's all good. So I should be able to run tests now and it should pass. Which, do I have yeah, Mocha all. An exception has occurred. No such directory test, what? Hold on, let me do it from the command line. npm run test. Okay, there's our permanences. Yeah, it looks like that's working. The others should run too. There's our potential pools, there's our coders. Yep. Okay. So now at least we have, and I won't run it from, I don't need to run it from VS Code. So what do we want to test here? We need to test that, first of all, I'm not going to, let's say, describe pooling. Let's say during spatial pooling, I know this is a little bit of cruft, but it reads better. It reads better when we write the tests. During spatial pooling, we want to I guess it's during the mini column competition. Let's call it that. Maybe we should write this in the mini column competition, and because that's when learning occurs. So I'm not sure. Oh, these are mini column competition tests. Didn't I have some? I feel like I skipped some tests. I messed something up. I had mini column competition tests that I did not. Okay, hold on here. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So during mini column competition, I already have tests for this, and I And overlaps, those need to be here too. So those need to be here. I almost took too much out. When establishing initial permanences, there we go. I think that. I think this. Okay, so I need to I'm gonna run this again and make sure that that the overlap tests are properly run. 51 tests last time. There should be more than that, a lot more than that. There they are. That's what I wanted. The input saturations, mini columns with most overlap win. So I almost screwed up and deleted some of the most important tests, which would have been bad. 71 tests. Okay, so during the mini column competition, now we're going to add a section. That was just cleanup, so let's commit that. Just because. So yeah. Git move, remove this, and it should recognize that this was moved from one place to another. Yeah, new file, okay. And run test, make sure I didn't screw anything up. 71 tests. Yeah, that was a good catch. I think I would have caught it when I reviewed the code, hopefully. Okay. All right, so git commit. Extracting tests into individual files by subject. Just leave it. I don't push it. I don't need to push it yet. Okay, so we've got our tests for calculating overlap. What we need to do is I'm going to see if maybe there's a place in here we can already do this. This is just checking that all of the winners have higher overlaps than all the losers. And what we'll do is now we want to make sure that the mini columns are learning. And then we're going to make a test to make sure we can turn learning off. Yeah, I would have caught it when it wasn't doing anything. Well, who knows? I might never have caught it because those tests just wouldn't be run. But it could have been long time in the future when I changed code that broke one of those tests that doesn't run anymore. That's when, and it would have been ugly, like you said, it would have been ugly. So I'm probably gonna have to write a new test. What I want to test here is, I'm gonna write this down. This is a good time to write this down. So the functionality, we're talking about SP learning. I'm gonna get this straight in my head. What I'm gonna work on here. What I want to do is let's say on new data, and instead of data, let's say encoding input. Let's say input. That's what we've been calling it. On new input. Winner MCs. For winner MCs, connections overlapping input are increased. That's one test. Also, connections not overlapping input are, let's say, incremented, and decremented. All right, so that's a good place to start. That makes sense. That's the. Your method of writing test first is a good one. I like working with a good test suite. Man, that's the only way to do especially complicated code. Like, if you don't really understand what you're doing, the best way to figure out what you really need to do is write a test first. And then you can define exactly what it is you're trying to have the code accomplish, which is what I'm doing here. For every winner mini column, after we see input, we need to look and see that any connections that are overlapping with the input, their permanence values get incremented. And I think we can test that. And the opposite. Not really the opposite, but you know what I mean. Okay, so how are we going to write this? That's the question. So I have a setup here that's during mini column competition. I think I could probably add this in the during mini column competition. What I don't have yet are like permanence, increment, and decrement values, but we can add that. Let's see. They don't teach you test first development in school. At least they didn't teach me. I took a pay cut to work at a software shop that did this type of development because I knew that it was something that I needed to learn early in my career, and it was worth it. It was absolutely worth it. So describe, or with X amount of winning mini columns. So I don't care how many mini columns there are, but I could certainly I'm just trying to think. I'm just thinking in my head. I could write my test within the context of this winner count and input saturation, but it's going to make the tests run. I mean, it's going to make the test suite run pretty long. But I mean, it's more resilient. It's more resilient and redundant for the tests to test all of these different conditions, although it's not necessarily necessary. Yeah, I don't do C. That's the thing. I never do C. All right, so I think we could probably write a test here, right, sort of at this level, and we know it's going to get run 16 times. That's the thing. It'll be run 16 times, and that's not exactly the best thing, but at least it'll cover all of the different possibilities. Do I want to hear a C joke? Tell a C joke, why not? Do I want to hear a C joke? Let me see. Do I have a sound for that? What is this supposed to do? Oh.
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
I'm never going to use that sound. I don't know why I have it. Okay. So it. I'm gonna put another describe. So on. Assuming we're gonna we don't have any new input, do we? Are we? Yeah, we have input count. Yeah, we're making random input here. So I'm gonna describe here on new input, just like I wrote on the board here, for winner mini columns. Describe for winner mini columns. 2 strings enter a bar. The first one says, "Give me a beer, Scott." That is a C does strings poorly. Yeah, it's one of the C is super fast. I don't know. You get me off track. Let's focus on this mini column competition. Thanks for the joke, Falco. I'm gonna keep moving on. For winner mini columns, and I sort of want to also create one for loser mini columns. Okay, and what we'll do for loser mini columns is basically the opposite. We're gonna ensure let's say permanences are never changed. Because that's the way it works in HTML for us. So we'll get to that. So for winner mini columns, connections overlapping input are incremented by permanence inc. Whoops. Yeah. All right. And I'm just going to copy and paste this, and we're going to do the same thing for losers. Connections overlap. Oh. Connections not overlapping. Connections not overlapping input are decremented by permanence dec. I'm just using permanence inc and dec because that's what we use in NewPick. We could have better names for those, maybe. No worries, Falcars. You can tell jokes. It doesn't bother me. Okay. So first thing I want to do is create some input that overlaps the spatial polar's mini columns. So I could do this randomly, or I could just create an input like that has maybe just one bit on, right? Maybe I could create an input with one bit or half the bits or something, but with a range that I know that's explicit and that I can test. So maybe I can turn half the bits on, go halfway through the structure, know that, and as a condition of the test, after it's seen that, so now I'm gonna have to like get a copy of all the permanence values for all of the mini columns before it sees the input. And then give it the input and go back through the mini columns before each one of its maps sort of to the input. Make sure that only the connections that overlap with the inputs were incremented, and they were incremented by a specific value, right? I think that's what I have to do. So what I'll do is I'll create input like this, but I won't do it randomly. Then we're going to do this. So I can get the winners this way, and I know the indices of the winners, and I'll go manually into each one of those, get the permanences, and test that they have changed by the decrement or increment, whatever. Excuse me. So we're going to write this as if it worked the way we wanted it to work. So I'm going to have a permanence increment 0.1 permanence decrement 0.05, and I want to make them different just because I want to test it. I want to make sure that they're because I'm going to test each one, and if they're the same one, it could be using the wrong value. The other thing I definitely want to test is I just thought of it and then I forgot it. Connections are incremented by permanence increment. We should also test, okay, the reverse of this. Oh, I already did. The loser mini columns permanences are never changed. Okay, so I think I've got all my bases covered here. I'm gonna look through, I'm gonna give it an input. I'm gonna look at all of the winner mini columns, look at every one of the, for each mini column, for each connection, if it's overlapping, check the permanence and make sure that it was specifically changed, otherwise not. And I can honestly do this in the same function. I don't need to loop twice over this. I can do that. I can loop through all the connections and do this all at the same time. So we'll try and do that. Okay, but first let's add the input. Wow, what did I just do? Did I not? copy it. Okay, so I want this. So there we have our winners, and this is not going to be random. We're not using an input saturation. Let's set it initially to 1, and we'll just say, well, I can do this in a condition. I can say if input count is less than, excuse me, x, if x is less than input count divided by 2, we will push a 1, otherwise 0. So the first half of the input will be 1, the second half will be 0 roughly, and I'll just use the same condition to check and make sure that they were incremented. Before I input this, before I run the competition, I need to get permanences. Okay, and we'll say original perms. Okay, afterwards we're gonna say new perms. So this is basically it. So this is what we're gonna compare, the original perms and the new perms. So we're gonna get the original perms, run a line, get the new perms, and then this is basically going to run through and say for the winner mini columns. We could hoist this up here, perhaps. It's sort of more fitting there. Okay. So connections overlapping the input are incremented by. So for the winners, so we'll go. Perhaps we'll do this. Winners for each winner. And I think this has an index and a permanence value, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this has an index and a permanence value. And I think I can I put this inside of this loop? I think I can. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can. So for each winner, now I'm gonna say each winner is a mini column. So I'm gonna go get the perms, let's say, I'm gonna call this all perms, original all perms, or no, all original perms, and all new perms, so now, original perm for this mini column, original perms for this mini column is all original perms winner.index. I think that should be the mini column index. So this should be the permanences of the mini column index before it was changed. New perms equals all new perms winner.index. Let's see. I'm not sure this is right here. I'm going to log this. And then we're gonna run. I want to figure out what was wrong with my run here. I want to run the current file. Why did this work last time? No such directory test Mocha apps. Configuration. I don't understand why it did that. I think I had this problem last time, and I didn't deal with it. So I can always run this. Of course, it's going to take too long to run. Oh, but those are my winners. Yeah. Okay, so that gives me the index and the complete overlap, which I don't really need for this. Or do I? Do I want the overlap? Yeah. So I want to go through all of that mini columns connections to the input space. If it's in the overlap, then I need to make sure that it's incremented. If it's not, I need to make sure it's decremented. Okay, so I am going to use the overlap here, so this is kind of perfect. Okay, so let's get this overlap. equals winner.overlap. Let's be explicit. Index equals winner.index. And so here, do this. Okay, get you out of the way here. So for winner mini columns, for each winner, we got the overlap and the index. Connections overlapping but are incremented. Again, I might end up doing this outside of this. Yeah, because I don't need to be in there. So I have the overlap, I've got all the new perms and the old perms. So for each, so I'm going to go through the entire input space, right? So the full input, so input dot for each input bit and input index. Oops. Input bit and input index. So this is where we're going to do the comparison. Here's where we're going to do the actual testing. Whoops. All right. So connections overlapping are incremented by permanence increment. All right. So if, I'm not sure if this test is going to work properly, but we're going to find out. We might need to restructure it a little bit because I don't usually write my its statements like this, but we'll find out. So if input index is in the overlap, and it's not contains, it's, I always forget, array contains in JavaScript. JavaScript array contains, it's something, includes, that's right, okay. If includes, so if our overlaps include this index, then it should be incremented. So now, right here, I already know the perm. So let's say this is a constant. I don't know why I'm doing this. These are constants. Just have the, my brain just learned to use let instead of var, and now I'm using const everywhere. Original perm is original perms input index. Okay, and new perm equals new perms input index. Input index. All right. If there's an overlap, that means that the new perm assert, here's where we get to the assertion, assert equal. I want to assert that I expect the new perm to be the original perm plus, what did I say? What did we increment? 0.01. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to hoist this up. So const permanence increment equals 0.1. Perm decrement equals 0.05, and then we're going to use that in our test. PI pdec. Okay. So now in our test, that's what we're going to say, plus the permanence increment, and we're going to assert that. Okay. So winner mini column at, hold on, I like to put as much detail as I can in the error messages. Winner, because it certainly helps with debugging. Winner mini column at MC index was not incremented for input index for, let's put overlapping input index. Okay. Otherwise, see, this is basically like, this is where I should probably just write this in the same place. Connections overlapping inputs are incremented by permanence. All right, I'm just going to say connections. Say permanences are properly updated when learning is on. Okay, we'll just leave it at that because the assertions tell the story that we're trying to tell. I don't have to describe it that much because else I'm basically going to do the opposite of that. If it doesn't include it, this should be minus permanence decrement, and then say winner mini column at was not decremented for non overlapping input index. All right, I think that test is what I want to test, and it's certainly not going to work. It shouldn't work, and I should call this overlaps because that's what I called it here. All right, so let's watch this fail. Hopefully this should fail. Yeah, it's definitely failing. And I didn't get my, oh, that's, wait, what's going on there? Permanences are properly updated when learning is on. Okay, hold on. I think I don't know what's going on. Permanence is properly updated, learning is on. What am I doing wrong here? I got something screwy. Yeah, so so I don't want this to do that every time. So let's move this. We don't want this to run every time. Let's move this way up here. That should work. It should just be one test. A lot of assertions, but one it statement. That's better. Okay, so now we'll see the failure a lot better, I think. All right. Wait a second. What do I got going on here? For each, I think I need to move all these. Oh yeah. So this needs to come up, right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. So this should be a failure now. And we should see the failure messages soon. Permanences are properly updated. And they're not, because we're not doing it, obviously. Another thing we should do is... Nothing exciting. Learning. Let's just call it learn true. Okay, so we're going to send that in too. And then we're going to have an opposite test. Is that where I wanted it? Yeah. I'm using the same SP for all of these tests. And I'm going to set up a negative test with learning off. Okay, so I'll do that here. Input saturation, many columns with most overlap wins. Describe on new input. So I'm going to add another condition here that says like when learning is off. When learning when learning is disabled. We don't want to see what we just tested for. Okay, so this is gonna mean we're gonna have to create another mini column or another SP here, and we're just gonna turn learning off. We'll use everything else is gonna be the same. I'm gonna create a new SP, and that's the one that we're gonna test here. Learning is false. And I really should say on new input with learning enabled, and then we'll create, we'll make this one on new input when learning disabled. That makes sense. That makes sense. Snapshot and compare the isolated changed elements. I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm doing, right? I'm getting the perms before and after and just comparing them. But I have to create a new spatial pooler. I don't have to. I mean, I can just turn learning off. You can turn learning on and off. So let's do that instead. Instead of what I'm about to do, let's say sp.disable learning. That's good. As a general test tool, snapshot and compare to isolated changed elements as a general test tool. Yeah, I could do that. I want to be really explicit at first, and maybe we'll end up pulling out some more general testing stuff as we go along. But I don't think this is too complicated. On new learning, yeah. So I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna hoist this up. I know I keep using the word hoist a lot, but I'm into hoisting right now. So I'm creating input for these next two tests here, and we'll just reuse it. Oh, I don't know. What am I doing? That didn't. Okay. It really doesn't matter whether this is random or not, does it? It doesn't. I mean, this could very easily be random. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. I'm not specifically looking for this. This is fine. I can do this and just use it randomly. So on input when learning is disabled. And I'm basically going to run the same thing. I could certainly create a function that does this for me. Yeah, I got off by one, index problems, bad tests. Do you see a problem with one of my tests, Mark? I don't quite see what you're telling me. Oh, the kinds of errors I'm looking for. Yeah. So what I really sort of need is a function that will compare the two data, basically the two permanences, the before and after permanence values of all the mini columns, given the overlaps. Let me just do this explicitly first. I think that's going to be the easiest thing to do for me to understand, and then maybe we will do it explicitly next. Okay, so we've disabled learning on the SP. We get the permanences. It doesn't matter what we've seen before. We're going to get the permanences, and that's what we're going to start from. That's the comparison we're going to start from. We'll run the competition, get the winners, new permanences, and now permanences are, we'll say, not updated when learning is disabled. And let's change this one. I don't need to say when learning is disabled because that's part of this. When learning is disabled. When learning is disabled, parentheses are properly updated. I can turn this off or remove that. So this is just going to ensure that we are not changing anything, that they're the same. Was mini column, it's just to say at input index was updated when learning was disabled. And this is, we're going to do the same thing no matter what. This assertion is what we're going to do for everything. If anything changes ever, we're going to throw an error, or we're going to fail the test. So this is going to fail right here because there's no disabled learning function right away, obviously. So let's go, and now we can go change the code. So first of all, we want to have a parameter called whether we're learning or not. Mark, what? Can you get on Discord and explain to me? Or you can't yet. Sorry. I agree. This is just for the first cut, but I mean, as long as the overlap functionality is working, this should be okay for every step of the way, I think. Competition tests. So I'm creating. So I'm going to default to learning being on, I think. I don't have a test for that. I mean, how much do you want to test? Default is on. Should I write a test that learning is on by default? I could, but I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to call this learning enabled equals this dot ops dot. What did I call it? Learn. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's where we're gonna always go to this learning enabled, and I'm gonna add a function disable learning. This dot learning enabled equals false or true. So it's either if this is, oh, that's not gonna work. Let's say if learn does not equal undefined, otherwise true, because I want it to default to true. Okay, you're very paranoid. It's good to be paranoid as a software engineer. I think we're gonna find out. See, we're gonna visualize this almost immediately, and we're gonna see this right away, and we should be able to see it learn right away. So once we get this tested and I've sanity checked it, and I think it's doing what I think it's doing, we'll go release a version and fix it, and hook it up. It's already hooked up. We'll release a version that learns essentially and tell it to learn, and we should see over time the mini columns grow affinity towards certain subsections of the spatial input. Okay. I'm also going to add an enable learning, because you should. Okay, so we're always going to go to that. So now, let's run the test and we'll see a different failure. Why is Keynote coming on? Okay. So now we should get a failure, not an error. Which we are. So it's going to say, these permanences aren't being updated. The little lights aren't blinking. Anybody know that movie? Cannot read property includes of undefined. Oh, that's not what I expected. Includes. That was on this overlaps function. Oh, I know why. It's because I said overlay, overlap. And I think it's singular, actually. Overlap. Let's call it, make them all singular. Find out. As soon as this passes, I'm going to reward myself with some Japanese candy. I love this stuff. It's, I don't know how to say it, puchao, but it's cola flavored and it's fizzy and it's got little gummy cola things in it. They're delicious. There we go. Winner mini column at 58 was not decremented. Okay, so now we're getting real errors that we expect to get. Okay, so let's make it work. Okay, so where are we gonna do this? Here's our perms. This is where we're calculating the overlap. There's the competition. We're not gonna do this efficient. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. These are awesome. Particularly the Japanese candies are so good. But this one in particular, I really love the fizzy cola gummies. I get them at Daiso in San Jose. Daiso is like a Japanese dollar store with like thousands of different crazy items. It's so interesting. Okay. So we get our overlaps, but we're not learning. So when we compete, I think we do have to do this in calculate overlap. So in calculate overlap, we get all of our permanences. And we get these permanences because we're keeping them in this array called permanences. And for each permanence, this is where we're calculating the overlap. But we only want to, so here's the winners. So what we're going to have to do is, this is not going to be efficient, okay, but it's going to be right. So we're gonna calculate the winners, and then for each of the winners, we're gonna go do this. Let's say if this dot learning enabled winners. If learning is enabled, winners dot for each winner. Oops. Okay, we're gonna say, let's get our perms. Let's get our perms. Const dot perms equal this dot permanences. I'm gonna call this all perms, just because I know that I can use the index for this. So the winner has an index, mini column index. All perms winner dot index. So these are only the winners. And for each one of these, I have to go through the permanences again. For each. And this is going to be just a permanence and an input index. Oh, no, this is going to be a pool index. That's okay. It's okay. It's a lot of indexing, but it'll work. Eventually, it'll work. Okay, so now I gotta go to the pool, which I've already got, right? I have the pool. Do I not? I don't have the pools. I've got permanences. Crap. Okay, so we'll get pools. All pools. Potential pools. And the potential pools are by index as well. So I should get my pool here. Pool is all pools, winner, index. So those are the potential pools. Yeah, okay. So now in the pool, I have to say this pool index. That's how I know this is going to be my input index. Because remember, the permanences don't have an input to the index. The permanences are associated with a potential pool array. Potential pool array are the links, the indices to the index. It's little. I know. I already have an input index, don't I? Or do I? Input index. Oh no, wait. I just have. I forgot. This is there. Okay, so that's my input index. Okay. So now I need to get the permanence value if there is a connection. So that's the next thing, isn't it? But I've already done the connection bit. Oh, right. Okay, so actually, how do I think about this? The winners, the overlaps from the winners. Now I have to use the overlaps. Okay, just bear with me, you guys. I gotta work through this in my head. So there's the overlap. Winner dot equals winner dot overlap. Okay, and these indices are pointed to the input index. So I know the overlap now. Okay, so now I have the input index here. If the overlap includes, this looks familiar to the test that I wrote, right? That's what happens when you do test-driven development. If the overlap, that means you're doing it. That means it's probably going to work. If overlap includes the input index, that's when we want to increment the permanence. Okay, so then we're going to increment the permanence. Increment perms only of connections that overlap. Okay, so because I've already done the comparison and the overlaps are already calculated. So now I'm going to say all perms, winner.index. All the permanences and all my perms. So then I have to find the right permanences. So I have to go to the pool index, and then I have to add plus equals the decrement or the increment, which I haven't, which is in the options. Okay, so I'm gonna put this up here. Const permanence increment dot ops dot permanence increment const permanence decrement equals this dot ops dot permanence decrement. Okay, so this is gonna add the permanence increment. The data structures are not fixed sizes. That's why I'm doing this pool thing. The potential pool is not fixed, so the permanences are tied to the size of the potential pool. So that's why I'm doing this extra sort of intermediary link to the potential pool. Okay, if I forgot a parens here. Okay, so increment. Otherwise, this is only for winner columns. Otherwise, we're going to decrement it. So the same, basically the same thing. Decrement. Thanks for following along, Mark. Appreciate it. Decrement perms for non-overlapping connections. Okay? So this is going to be minus equals permanence decrement. Now comes the moment of truth. It didn't work. Okay, we'll find out why. I think we're pretty close, though. What'll be really fun is when we get to the point. So these are all the same thing. So winner was not decremented, and there's probably the same for increment. Oh, these are old ones. Was not decremented. So the first one worked. Okay, let's try this again. So if I comment this out, does everything pass? So oh no, it didn't. All right, that's good because that would have been weird. Come on now. I know these tests are long. Okay, was not incremented for overlapping input index. This probably has something to do with the way that I am accessing the permanences. I think I know why. Let's do this. Let's SpongeBob. Okay, I'm gonna do this instead. Instead of all pools and all perms, I'm gonna make a reference to me, and wherever I'm saying all pools and all perms, the pools are fine because I'm not messing with those. But I'm assigning permanences, so I'm going to. I'm not sure if this is fine. Oh. So I have the permanence here. I'm gonna so here's what I'm gonna do. Me dot permanences. I'm gonna go straight to the data structure. I wanna mini column index, pool index, and that should be the permanence that I just saw. I'm gonna say equals permanence plus permanence increment. Right, so the permanences is a list, or is an array of the mini columns, so with the mini column index, and that's going to give me a list of values indexed against the pool, and I'm going to reassign it to the permanence that I should be at, plus the increment. Let's see if this works. Be the same. This is just a minus. That I don't want to hear SpongeBob right now. You have a kaboom sound? No, I don't have a kaboom sound. I have a cow. I should have a. So that didn't work. Permanences are not being properly updated. Okay, interesting. Okay, so let's so first of all, let's make sure learning is enabled. Let's make sure this is working. Learning. So I should see a bunch of learning. Ah, learning is not enabled. I mean, that seems like what it is, or else I'd see all those learnings just now. Okay, so that's good, because that's hopefully going to be an easy fix. Learning is not... Which also means I liked the way I was doing this earlier. It doesn't matter, this is fine. Learning enabled. So let's see, in this test, I'm creating... Where am I calling enable learning? Am I? With learning enabled? Am I not? I never called learning enabled, did I? Enable learning. No. How is that possible? I could have swore I had a... Oh, I just have disable learning. But I put learn equals true here. Okay, so it's really just, it's something I'm doing here, like this is wrong. Let's just leave it like this. I bet this will pass. I probably just did a stupid if condition. Oops, maybe not. All perms is not defined. Where? Spatial pooler 2. Oh yeah, that's because I removed it. So all I have to do here is just me permanences. It's weird that didn't trigger last time. Okay, so that wasn't it. I misspelled permanences here in the test, but only in the test. I'm really bad at misspelling permanences. I've misspelled permanences several times. Permanences. Place. Okay, just keep me from going crazy. Okay. We're so close. We're so close. We're so close. But we're not getting... Somehow learning enabled is not working. This.ops.learn. Is true here, but did I create a new SP anywhere? The SP when learning is disabled, on no input when learning is disabled. We're not even to this one yet. We're not even getting to this one yet. We're failing here. So let's initially, what I probably should have done anyway is said learn is false on this one, because we're not testing learning in any of this stuff. And when we get to this one, we'll explicitly turn learning on when learning enabled. So here, we'll explicitly turn learning on. And then in the next one, we're explicitly turning learning back off. So we're initially not learning, we're gonna run the competition tests, then we turn learning on and run the learning tests, and then turn it back off and continue running learning tests that are disabled. I don't know if that's gonna fix anything, it's just a little bit more clearer. It doesn't fix anything. So are we even getting in here or not? Console log still. We are learning. And if we're not, we are learning. Do you see that? We are learning. But wait a minute. That's not when we should be learning. We shouldn't be learning when we're calculating the overlaps. Disabled. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's not what I... Learning enabled, disabled, enabled, disabled. During mini column competition, when learning enabled, it says disabled, 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 disabled. Okay. So yeah, so that's not right. But what is this learning disabled enabled coming from? There's something weird in my test here. This is false. Find all references. Okay, hold on. Let me, good permanences. Before I go nuts, I'm gonna disable these. I'm just gonna comment these tests out for a moment. I wanna see what I see. Is learning disabled or not? Learning is enabled. Why? It should be disabled. Okay, so this is my problem. I've got it backwards. See, this is the only place I'm calling enable learning, and I have it commented out. And I initially have learning as false. So there's something wrong. If I've got learning enabled here, there's something certainly wrong in the spatial pooler. Okay. NSP is learning enabled? This is typical of the way I do shit. Some people like to run debuggers, I like to do console logging. Okay, undefined, undefined, false, true, true, true. Where is the true coming from? Why would it ever be undefined? Oh, yeah, because learning is undefined. Let's just say if, we're going to do this simple. If learn enabled equals undefined. Do we want to default to learning or not? I don't know. I keep going back and forth about this. Let's say false. Let's say no. Let's say no, we're not going to. We are not going to. Uh-oh, David's in the house. So I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna say, well, now I'm gonna be explicit about it. We're gonna send it in explicitly false here. Explicitly true here. No. This is where I want it to be false. False. That was one of my problems. And then we call enable here. So learning should always be false in this test. False, false, false. There we go. False, false, false. And now that's what I want to see. Okay. All right. So thanks, David, for the cleanup there. Okay. So that's what I wanted to see there. So let's slowly turn these tests back on and see what happens. This is one test. On new input when learning enabled. So we're going to call SP learning enabled. And then we're not going to see this because this is only in the constructor. Enable learning, call make that true. Disable learning will make that false. All right, one more time with feeling. Oh, broke something. I got a syntax error somewhere. It's probably because I didn't comment something out. Yeah, it's probably this. Wait a minute, what? It's, yeah, that. Is this right? Enabled, disabled, enabled, disabled. So I don't know why it's alternating. I don't see... And in this one, it still says disabled. This is screwing with me. What the heck's going on here? First of all, why is it alternating? If I take this out...
A lot of times I see that in tests when I have a single equal sign instead of a double equal sign.
Oh, really?
But are you setting it instead of reading it?
Let's see. Well, this is where I'm setting it. That's where it's supposed to be. Where else are we? And otherwise, I'm just saying if learning enabled. This is only a couple places I'm even touching this. It's like every call changes it. Why would that happen? Now, I'll figure it out. Just give me a minute. So we're saying learning is enabled. That is, I'm just pulling it. I'm uncommenting every test I really don't want to run. Input saturation, many columns with most overlap wins. So I don't care about that. All new input when learning enabled. Like this whole thing I can take out. I'm just trying to isolate only the code that's failing, or only the test that's failing, so I know that there's nothing interfering with anything else. It says learning is enabled because I called learning enabled. Oh, wait a minute. Ah, that's false. Okay, this should also be false. But then I called enable learning here, which makes sense. So it should be enabled. But when I get into the actual checks, it's okay. So these are printouts. A lot of times you'll see the console logs come out before the test results, and I expect it to be enabled based on everything that I'm showing here. So I'm gonna even put more logging in here. Incrementing. I should see increments now, in addition to, yeah, so I get incrementing, but the permanences don't seem to be updating. And it could be maybe that I'm getting the wrong index. So let's be more explicit about what we're doing here. I'm gonna say incrementing. Let's see what this looks like. Maybe it's not a value, maybe it's wrong. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted either. We'll figure this out. We're almost there. Suddenly everything will start working. Okay, well, it found the value. Okay, before incrementing, after incrementing, we should see a difference, right? Stop it. Before incrementing, after. They're different. By point. Before incrementing. Wait a minute. The actual errors we're getting. Oh, there's some index wrong. Or no, it's not. That's fine. That's expected. It's difference of 0.05, which is right. That's right. Let me check my test. Make sure the original permanence, original perms, is coming from get permanences. Unless get permanences. Oh, get permanences needs to return a clone. That's what it is. It's returning a reference. Get permanences needs to always return a clone. Does that make sense? If I slice this, I wonder if that fixes it. Not quite. I'm just... That's right. This is right. See, I'm just wondering, I was thinking, like if I'm calling get permanences here and then I'm calling it again, and if I've updated this, obviously when I run the compete step, if it updates and now my reference just has the updated values, maybe I just need to do a deep clone, because this is, it's not a deep clone. A slice isn't a deep clone, right? So I need to do like a deep clone here, which it's an array of arrays. So I need to do a deep clone of array of array. JavaScript array deep clone, deep copy. Might not be easy. Where is it?
I thought permanences was an array of numbers.
It's an array indexed by mini column index. So like this permanences is an array of numbers. Wait a minute. It's an array of permanence values indexed by, okay, for each mini column. So there's one for each mini column, and it has okay, hold on. I gotta work this out in my head. It's too many data structures. Okay, so perms, first of all, it's an array of mini columns. So 0, 1, 2, 3. This is mini column index, and each one of these, that's the index. Each one of these is a scalar value. Each one of these contains another array, and this is an index of the pools. No. Each one of these is the permanence values, like 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, whatever, and these indexes are the pool indexes. So it's an array of arrays. The first array is ordered by mini column. The second array for each one of those, the subarray, is indexed by the pool. So it's an array of arrays. So I think I do need to do a one level deep clone, right? I shouldn't have to. Yeah. This does make sense. I think this is the problem. So this slice won't work. I don't need it's not an object in an array. All it is an array of an array. Array from creates a new array instance from an array. Maybe I can just do that. I'll try that first. Let's try that first.
So do you want that to return from get permanences always, or do you want to do that to whatever
Yeah,
you?
I don't want get permanences to return anything that's referenced. I want it to be always a immutable object. You know, something that they can change and it won't change the spatial pooler. And if the spatial pooler changes something, it's not reflected in whatever they got from get permanences. No links, no references.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll work.
Yeah, there's a couple of things.
Let's try this first. That didn't work. Because they're super close.
Can I try something?
Yeah, got another idea.
Well, a lot of times people do like this, like JSON parse, JSON.stringify, but I don't like doing that just because it's memory.
Just do it, and let's make sure that it works. Oh yeah, I guess we could do a map. I've seen the JSON method before, but you're right, it's kind of suboptimal. Okay, so this will create a new data structure. Is that it? You want to try?
Yeah, let's try that.
Let's try that. I hope this is the issue.
I'm kind of half following along. So what's the issue going on in the test?
Hold on here. Let me clean something up real quick, and I'll explain it to you. I've got a print statement somewhere that's, where is it? Here. Yeah, learning enabled. This I've convinced myself that learning, whether enabled or not, is working. Okay, so the issue is after incrementing. Yeah, let me turn this off. So I'm trying to, let me turn this down. So when learning is on, every time we run the competition, we want to go through all the winner mini columns and increment or decrement the permanences of their weights. And so how I'm doing this is for each one of those, if learning is enabled, for each mini column, I'm going through all the permanences for that column because they're indexed by the mini column index, which is here. And for each one, I should get the permanence value and then the index of the potential pool. I go to the potential pool to get the input index. And that's what I look for in the overlap. If that input index is in the overlap, then I know that this permanence needs to be incremented. And so the problem I keep thinking is, and I'm looking at this, and when I just uncommented this, but this was working. So before incrementing is a different value, and I increment it, and I go look at the permanences, and it's been updated. So the permanences is certainly being updated. I'm going directly into the data structure by reference to do this update. And I'm taking its permanence and I'm adding or subtracting the value that needs to be. But what I'm thinking is wrong here is in my test, up front, I'm getting all the original permanences. I'm running the competition and getting all the new permanences. And if they're all references, if these original perms are references, they will be updated. As soon as I run this compete, then all my originals are now updated. So I need whatever returns from get permanences to be a snapshot in time and should never be updated no matter what the spatial pooler does at that point. Mm-hmm. And it's not happening the way I'm expecting it to. So
can I see that? Let me see. So.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Just looking through. So like for each, so I go through all the winners. Overlap. Original perms.
Does that show as true?
Let's see. Let me do this so it doesn't. run a bunch of failures. False.
Okay, so they're not going to be the same reference. Unless, here, now run this.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
That's also false.
Yeah, okay, so they'll be different.
So that's not the issue. So what I thought was the issue is not the issue. What is my problem?
Can you go back? Where's that compete?
Yeah,
call?
let me review this test with me real quick, because I think this is the right logic. I go for each winner column. Then I go through the input array, right? Because for each winner column, I want to look at the input array and then loop through each one. I'm not even looking at the bit. I don't care about the bit because I've already done the overlap calculation. I just want to go to the input array, get the original permanence value and the new permanence value for that input bit, and assert that if this was an overlapping bit, that it was incremented, right? Otherwise, it was decremented. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. And this is the crux of the test. Like this is the test of whether we're learning or not. Is that, and this is what keeps failing, and I don't understand why. Just saying the new permanence should be the original permanence plus the increment. Otherwise, if it wasn't part of the overlap, it should be decremented. And it's acting like the test failures are acting like permanences were never changed. At least that's what I think it was doing. Let me run it. Oh my God, did these pass because I commented something out? I hope so. Wow, what's going on? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm still just getting failures, and it should be, they should be like either 0.1 or 0.05 off each one of these. So that's 0.5 off. All the decrements are 0.5 off because it expected it to be it expected it to be 0.46. But it was actually higher?
Let's look at the compete function.
Okay.
See.
This is all the learning code right here. That's all that I have added, really.
And what the winners gives you an array of indexes of the columns that are winners?
It's an array of objects, and each one has an overlap and an index. The index is the mini column index of the winner. The overlap is an array of indexes to the input. So it gives you a way to say from this mini column, here's how it's mapped to the input. Here's all the overlapping input bits.
So all pools is the columns.
It's the potential pools indexed by mini column.
Right.
And then I need that because the potential pools actually has the map to the input, because the permanences are tied to the pools. The permanences are the same length as the pools. You know what I mean?
So one index. And this permanences, for each one of these permanences, this is going to be the actual permanence value, and then this is the index of what?
The index to the potential pool.
Okay, so the input potential index.
No, the potential pool index, and then the input index is part of the potential pool.
Right, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that'll be the index. Oh, it's convoluted. All right.
Yeah, it's because the permanence is tied to the structure of the pool. That's why we're going through this extra sort of step through the pool to get the input index. Because I didn't want to create the pools. I wanted to create a list of indices for the pool, not just like, didn't cover the entire input space. It's just a list of indexes to which the mini column connects to, might connect to. And then the permanence is associated with that.
So what is this overlap here? This is
It's a list of
winter.
indices to the input. So yeah, you can look at calculate overlap for that, but it looks it should be indexes to the input array, and it's which indexes in the input array are currently overlapping the mini columns connections. Right.
So perm here is really just this value.
Exactly. So I initially had plus equals there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I took it out because it wasn't working and I was just trying different things. But yeah, I mean, but it shouldn't matter. And if I go in here, I can. We should see. Let's verify this. Console log. Okay, perm. And then actually, I'm gonna get input index just so we can see. Input index. So that should be something that maps to the input array. That's what I would expect, because I think the input is, wait, what size is my input? Let me make sure. In the test anyway, how big is my input? Input count. Default input count, just 500. So that's what I would expect. Indices up to 500. And there's 499, so yeah. So that's what I expect that to be. There's something strange going on.
The only thing weird about this is you're looping on this array and then you're changing that array.
I know. Yeah.
So that's gonna. So yeah. So what you would really need to do is slice this. I mean, not that I really probably won't mind it, but if you slice that way you're not editing the array that you're looping through. But I don't see how that would cause this issue.
Yeah. I mean, I could try it. We could just try it like that, so that we're operating on a copy, right?
Yeah.
But it shouldn't matter.
I mean, none of these are going to be called twice, right? Because they're each indexed by their own column.
Yeah. That's right. Let me think something here. I'm thinking maybe I'll try something like really. What if I Damn, I expected to be past this by now. I don't know. It's this may be one of those situations where I have to sleep on it and come back and I'll immediately know what's wrong. I was hoping to get the visualization working. Think through this again. Learning is enabled for each winner column. We get the over.
Is this right? Full index?
I think so. Here, let's print it out too. Here. Cool. It shouldn't be the same. It's not the same. So yeah, I think that's right. Because there's less pools than there are input, you know, because pool is a subset of the input. So they should go up slower. I think that's right. So that makes sense to me. Each permanence, pool index, input. Let me see. Let me try something with this test again. You did something that made me think maybe we could simplify this. Okay, and say, okay, instead of these tests, okay, let's just say assert deep equal, or is it if that overlap includes it, we're going to say not deep equal. I think, is that the thing? Not deep equal. And we'll just do all of them. New perms, original perms, all perms. So that should pass. So okay, so if there's an overlap, the perms should be different. Okay, so let's test that. Probably take out that console logging, but did that work? I think that worked. So maybe I've just screwed up my assertion somehow. Ooh, okay. Okay, so that's promising. Let's do is deep equal, whoops, I think it's just deep equal. Deep equal, new perms, original perms. I want to see that work too. I'm going to take out those print statements I threw in there. Okay, so if this passes, I mean, we're on the right track then. Maybe I just had something wrong in my assertion in indexing. No, that failed. So we're failing on the else. If the overlap includes this input index. Oh, no, I'm doing this at the wrong level.
Yeah.
So this actually isn't a valid test. It's just this. If we're learning, no matter what, we should have a different perms. So that's where that should be. So so that should pass.
And then you want to do the same thing for here too, right?
Yeah, well, so I'm trying to check the individual values in this loop and make sure only the permanences that should be updated were updated. So I'm going to keep this and say just say it was be updated because I already have that condition here. Okay, so that passed. So properly updated. So they are updated. And then here, okay. So I can actually add the opposite here, this other one, for the winners. So for the non-winners, oh, you know what I should be doing is looping over the whole input on the outside with the winner loop on the inside. Let me change this a little bit. Then I can include the test for the loser mini columns in the same place. Okay. Bear with me here. I'm going to restructure this a little bit, and sometimes the restructuring sort of makes it clear what we should be doing. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to start at the input level. So for the whole input, and then we'll do the winner column for each. Okay, so for every And no, I'm not going to do it like this anymore. Whoa, what did I do? Okay, so I'm going to loop through each one of these bits. And I'm also going to do this. Winner indices. Winners map. Okay, so those are just the indexes that win if winner indices, not count, indices includes input index. This is where we're going to check. This is where we're going to do one assertion. I want to make sure that we'll have to figure out how to make this work. Okay, so I don't have the new perm here yet, but this is essentially, I think, what I want to do. So for the input, if this input is part of one of the winner columns, yeah, so then I'm going to check if any of the winner columns, then I'm going to go into that winner column. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Maybe I can. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna sleep on this. I'm gonna sleep on this, and we're gonna come back because I have other things I gotta do today. I've been streaming for like 5 hours or so. So I'm gonna sleep on this. David, thanks for your help. Mark, thanks for your support. I think this is one of those things where I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, oh yeah, you know. So we'll put this in a branch. This is in simplehtm. This is important that we get this right because this is a part of, you know, our learning for our spatial pooler. So I'm gonna put this in a branch called spatial pooler learning. I'm gonna add both of this stuff and say partially, no. Let's say half written learning tests that don't pass. That's pretty obvious, okay? Git push origin SB learning. So if you want to go get that branch, you can go check it out. I feel like this is going to be something I'll come back and within half an hour figure out, like tomorrow. So if that happens, I'll fix it. We'll get it in place, and then we'll do the visualization on the next live stream. That makes sense? Because I feel like my intuition is like this is a banging my head moment, and all I need is a good night's sleep, and everything will fall into place. And that's just a programming thing. That's so let's do that. Yeah, it's all. This is these types of data structures are tricky for sure. Okay, let's go share the love with somebody else on Twitch. I don't think. Oh, by the way, I mentioned that I got a new guitar, so I'm gonna unbox it on Twitch later, and here's the URL if you want to watch me. So in hopefully a few hours I'll be doing that. And otherwise, let's go see who's doing science stuff. Anybody doing science stuff? Oh, let's go to SimulIOS. He's great. He's always doing algorithm work. So let's go raid him. You guys can go check out and see what he's doing. He's always doing some interesting stuff. He's a nice guy. And again, thank you very much for watching and for supporting the stream. Be sure to follow if you haven't already. And if you missed the stream of the Stratocaster unboxing, you can always catch it on the video on demand part. So I'll see you guys later, and take care. Probably not this week because I've got conferences later this week, but definitely next week we'll finish this up. And the visualization will be cool when we do it. When you have learning on, you can tell that it's learning. So we'll get to that point. Take care, everybody.
I just don't know how we would do this transpose exactly. That's the thing I couldn't quite figure out. So this would mean we transpose